Hi, Malcolm.
Hey Lorraine, how are you?
Yeah, great, thank you. Thanks for agreeing to talk to us today, just about your journey with spirituality and you know how that looks for you and so on and so forth. So it's lovely to have you here. And I guess we'll just jump in if you're ready.
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it. It's a cool idea you've got here. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Would you like to tell us a little bit about you? Who is Malcolm? What does he do? What does he like?
Who's Malcolm? What does he do? What does he like? Malcolm is a hypnotherapist. Malcolm is a dad. Malcolm has dedicated his life to helping people. And Malcolm, for all effects and purposes, lives a very ordinary life, although hypnotherapy probably isn't that ordinary. I mean, I'm taking people in and out of trances all day. And Malcolm has this really strong spiritual side that drives so much of what I do, so much of what I am, is driven by this sense of connection to something that is driving me. So everything I do in my life, even if I think I'm controlling the show, I'm not. I have endless amounts of confirmations of these kinds of events, these kind of unique, almost miraculous events. And if I could say why, I don't know. I can't tell you why. Why this is, but it's this unique sense of being driven, being pulled, being guided, being informed. But ultimately, I'm just this person with kids and an absolute desire to help people, like an absolute desire, like to have a profession where I'm of service to people. And
Great.
yeah, does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So the terms spirituality, it can have a whole bunch of connotations. I mean, it'll mean 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people. What does it mean to you?
To me, it means self with a capital S. So if you were to look at the idea of Shiva in the Hindu context, Shiva is the idea of the microcosm within the macrocosm. So from the cells out in concentric circles going outward to the furthest reaches of the galaxy, all is Shiva. There is the self and 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 the self. And probably the only difference is that you say the size of the S, Yeah. And so I ultimately believe that we are God, that we are inseparable from the universe. It roars through us with the same power and the same beauty and the same energy that it roars through a tree or a caterpillar or a star system. And that for me to touch the essence of spirit isn't actually that complex. We've built a lot of complexities around it, but it literally is just a matter. It's not complex, but it is hard. It's just a matter of letting go, really letting go. And do I get that right? I get it right most of the time, some of the time, where I literally surrender and I go, I am of the universe, therefore nothing can really go wrong. I just let go. I'm in the jet stream, or going down the hydro slide, right? And I can measure the times in my life where I let go and I go down the hydro slide and it's fucking great. Like, it just, the confirmations, the doors just open. If I meditate and I'm in a high vibration place, I can turn on my phone and I have clients, I have people I've never met that I don't know will have found me. If I am coming from myself, let's call it the ego, as in the non-Freudian sense of the ego, as we spiritual people understand the ego. If I try and take control of the wheel, if I try and grip that, either I become very, very, very broken after a couple of months, or I don't attract anything.
Yeah.
Except a reflection of that that anger or that pain or that sadness or that shit, that all that stuff that we all have that's built up. And so for me, what spirituality has meant for me ultimately has been just knowing that I can let go. I can let go, and it's going to be okay. And it has to be okay because I am the universe. You are the universe. We all are. We're all equal. There's no hierarchy. I really believe that. It's such a massive thing for me.
Yeah.
Such a massive thing for me, that we are equal. Every single one of us, every single person, every single creature, every single cell, every single atom is equal. And that is my fundamental essence of what spirituality means.
Yeah.
That we are literally equal. There is no one above the other. I don't know why that's so important to me. I have this weird anti-hierarchical thing.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of egocentricity, I have hierarchy, and I just honestly believe we are all equal.
Yeah.
Every single one of us. Passionate. I really believe that.
Awesome. That's great. So in terms of this connection and these beliefs, is that something you've had through your whole life? Did you feel this connection from being really small, or is it something that's come more in adulthood? And
yeah, so I fought against it for a long time. I was very dedicated to being an atheist. I was very determined. I failed at being an atheist miserably. I was brought up by a remarkable woman. I was effectively raised by her, my grandmother, and my grandmother was renowned in the small town that she lived in for being able to physically heal people, to the point where bones would reset, and remarkably gifted woman.
Amazing.
And she identified as a Christian, and she would sing to the garden, and she would talk about how she'd healed herself of breast cancer. She would give gratitude. She'd talk to the birds. She'd talk what she called speaking in tongues. She could, but really was light language, and she'd do it in her sleep. She would speak with the dead. She was an absolutely remarkable woman. And I was brought up with her, and she would always say, well, give me a child until he's 6 and I'll show you the man. And I believe that what she programmed in me was this massive awakening that was going to happen. I think it was inevitable. And I just thought she was this very lovely, very forceful, very powerful, very much a force of nature, like all 5 foot of her, absolute force of nature. And she was 90 years old, and she did 2 things. One was she took up drinking alcohol, and the second thing is she, not heavily, she just decided that she would see what this was all about. And then the second thing that she did was she announced to us that she was going to die in a week, that she would will herself to, and she did. She just decided it was time, and that she would go back to the bugs and the earth, and that was how she saw it. She wanted to be back with the bugs and the earth, and one with the ground and the land. So you could, in terms of spiritual belief systems, she's got some pretty powerful, very mystical stuff going on here. And I stood up at her funeral, opened my mouth, and out of my mouth came the words, "I will continue your work." And then 3 years after that, I had this ridiculously huge awakening. It was like somebody flicked. I'd always had abilities, always, ever since I was a kid. It turns out that one gets chosen in each generation of my family, actually. Right. But the one above me, he died. He committed suicide. So my son is actually this next one. It's always been women, so I'm like the first guy.
Okay.
And it's like I had all these abilities before. Well, when I said that, there was like a delay on some master switch being pulled down, and 3 years later, it just went bang.
Okay.
And the whole lot just lit up, and it was pretty. It was great. It was phenomenal. It was weird. It's like it's still weird.
Very different journey, different stages to the journey. Yeah.
To a very different journey to what? Sorry.
are very different stages within the journey, would you say?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Definite moments.
Yeah.
You know, definite sort of chapters and signposts of this is where we're going. And I honestly feel like there's probably more signposts and more chapters.
Yeah. Never quite getting to the end, always evolving and changing, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk about gifts as this kind of, you know, what sort of gifts do you have and stuff like that. And I've always sort of found, like, with each other, right? Like, what sort of abilities do you have? And the weird thing that I have is that I have almost like this array of abilities that I don't get to control.
Yeah.
Like, if telepathy is going to be here for the next 5 months, it is. If it's going to be, I think I've had one massive psychic prediction about the future, a pretty big one, but only one. Right. And then people might go, well, okay, yeah, that's fantastic. You predicted this big thing would happen in 2020. You sort of predicted how it would be. You didn't see it would be COVID, but you predict something would happen. What happens next? And I go,
yeah,
you know, but I can tune in energetically to this thing over there, or this thing, or this answer. And it's just interesting. I think spirituality is something we so have to find out for ourselves in stillness.
Yeah.
Am I making sense, or am I rambling?
No, you're good. Because it's different for everybody, right? We all come from different places. We all experience things in different ways. Even if we'd had, you know, what you call parallel journeys, then we would see them very differently, type thing. You know, so it's different for everybody. So that's great. Having been through the things you have and been on the journey that you've been on, if somebody was watching this and they kind of went, well, that kind of resonates. What do I do though? You know, something similar happened to me, but I don't know what the next step is. I don't know what to do. Where do I look? I need somewhere to look. Would you have any recommendations around what they might look to see if it fit with them?
Yeah, resources and books, right? I believe that ultimately, if the journey is about the self, then the self with the capital S, the small self connected to the big self. If I was just starting out again, where I started out was Self-Love by Thich Nhat Hanh. It's a tiny book. And it's a Zen Buddhist book on mindfulness. And we have had mindfulness like in our popular culture now for so long that it's almost lost its shine.
Yeah.
But it still remains to me the most powerful way to enter the journey. If things are happening, if only just to come back to ourselves, to the stillness, to the present moment, is to me the most powerful thing we can do. So Thich Nhat Hanh's True Love is an incredible book. As is, I believe, Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now. If you're really just starting, they're great books to start with.
Yeah.
Because the key is to begin to bring yourself into the present moment. And I know this has been said so many times, but I'll just give you a bit of a rundown of how important this is, I think, to understand.
Okay.
At the beginning of, let's call it the third stage of my spiritual journey, I came to surrender because I almost took my life. And in that journey of almost taking my life, I literally had all the material possessions. Yeah, I had like everything sorted out, and I'd traveled the world and I'd met celebrities and I had this really wild life. And I was married to the person who I pursued for 8 years. But because I wasn't still, because I wasn't present, all of the fears of the future and all of the fears of the past, all of the regrets of the past, and everything I've been taught from my family, and who were, you know, very religious, and all of the things that I thought I'd escaped through. And this isn't an anti-money rant here, but all of the things I thought I would escape, thought to escape through a big house and traveling the world and having all these experiences, came to get me. They came to find me. and they forced me into presence because I was doing my best to not take my life. That's what all of my past had ganged up to do. And when I sat down to be present with that, a big tunnel opened up, and I was shown what it would be like to die. And I was shown the way that the universe was, and everything connected, and everything is one. And I was shown by an angel of death, by a great big angel of death with a face of electricity and black wings. And when I was able to get present enough, I was able to understand that there is nothing to be afraid of. There is nothing in the future, even our own death, to be afraid of. That everything in the future and everything in the past is a fiction. That right now is the reality. Right now is the present. And whether you have a ton of money or not, it's not that money is good or bad. It's just totally irrelevant. It's just totally irrelevant to peace of mind, to that spiritual connection. You know, I'm probably somewhere in the middle now in regards to that, you know, and it's great. And when you're present, you get to do these amazing things. Like if you have kids or someone you love, you literally you just can touch their hand, and there's so much magic there. And when you're present, you can begin to see that the other person is genuinely your neighbor, is your brother or sister, not somewhere in some hierarchy or somewhere in some pecking order. And when you're present, you can see every nuance of a tree. You can feel every piece of the breeze. And I believe that these are divine things. I believe these are connections to divinity. But to not be present, as Eckhart Tolle would say, which I believe is to almost like a form of madness. You're living somewhere which isn't real. Or as Thich Nhat Hanh says, you know, if you're not there, nothing is there.
Yeah.
So I'm a really big believer in that. And I think if I could ask people to take, if people could take one message from that, because I mean, this saved my life, and now I get to go and save lives, right?
Yeah.
As a hypnotherapist. So you know, I work because I work with intense stuff. So I, at the very least, you know, often say people from anxiety and depression and all that. But so much of that is just about forced presence in the moment. And I honestly think that's it. And it takes time. It takes time to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like at the end of the day, mindfulness works for a really, really, really good reason. As boring as it sounds, you know, as over talked about as it sounds, spirituality is experiential.
Yeah. Just take one step, right? Just take that.
Take one step.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to set up a massive ritual, right? Like my ritual for mindfulness is genuinely, I roll out a yoga mat, I open the curtains to the backyard, and I sit down. And that's it, and I breathe.
Yeah.
You know?
Awesome.
And in there, I get to fall in love with myself a little bit. Because if you're part of the universe, and you love the universe, and you're going to ask the universe for love, you're actually asking yourself. You're part of the deal. You are the universe. You know?
Absolutely. So you're referencing your hypnotherapy practice just then. Do you use these gifts that you have as part of or alongside with the hypnotherapy work that you do?
Yeah, so the way that we're taught with hypnotherapy is that there's 4 components. So I studied at school, which was really big on just as big on the spiritual side of things, and energy work. And so we're taught that there's the physical, the emotional. So the physical includes the brain, the physical, the emotional, the energetic, and the spiritual.
Yeah.
And so if a person comes to me and it's the right thing to do, sometimes people's guides will turn up. We'll watch them, or I'll watch them, or my partner and I will watch them actually walk through the door and into the therapy room, or they'll go through the house into the therapy room, and they'll wait for someone to turn up, right? So yes, I do use that side of things if it's required. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it actually gets in the way. Sometimes the whole house lifts off, and I'll be in some full multi-sensory journey with the person. Um, Often telepathy happens just because it's, I think, a faster mode of communication. And that's two-way telepathy, which can surprise some people, to put it mildly. But it's, it's whatever is required. And I definitely am more than happy to have that happen. Like I actually love working with it. You know, I don't believe that, I don't personally reach for it as the only tool. I actually don't intend to reach for it, but every now and again, if a guide turns up and goes, hey, I'm running the show, we're doing it this way or whatever, then I'll follow the river where the person needs to be. My only interest is getting the results. You know, if a person turns up and they've got massive anxiety, then I want them to walk out of there with that anxiety gone or at least severely reduced. And if that means spiritual stuff and that person's open to spiritual stuff, awesome. But you know, if the person's not open to spiritual stuff, trying to actually open that door cannot be of value. So I'm not really here to kind of tell people how they should think. I'm here to work with their belief. And you know, like one person's Kali is another person's Mother Mary, right? So I'm here to just run with that. I have really, really powerful beliefs myself. A lot of what I believe I don't understand. It's all from confirmation. But I would never impose my beliefs on another person. It's just to open that door and just run and just let it happen, you know. But you know, if people want to work with me, by all means, bring your guides and ancestors and bring the whole lot. Honestly, like it can be a pretty full house sometimes.
So essentially you work with in whatever way the person, your client, wants to work. So whether they have any spiritual beliefs or they have no spiritual beliefs, you kind of roll with whatever they need at that moment in time to enable them to move on and get the results they want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's really, really key. Like I believe that I genuinely believe that there are atheists out there who are spiritual. I just don't know they are. Right. And I always give the example of the atheist. One of my favorite clients was an atheist who plants trees in the face of his own oblivion. And I was like, bro, why? And he was like, well, you know, because I'm going to leave the world better than when I came in. And I meant, that's a pretty damn spiritual way of doing atheism, right? And so I think that if I sat down and went, well, look, I tell you what, it's actually this, mate. Well, he might just get depressed and never plant another tree. You know, and it's kind of like that accepting and that, you know, that you are wherever it is. When people told me about star beings, I remember the very first time that somebody told me about star beings, I thought they were out of their mind. The person, ironically, was a hypnotherapist. And I went, and then, you know, I was in a session with a client, and one turned up in the room, this huge, tall thing, and it connected to the energy of her heart, and she started channeling, which is what she wanted to come and see me for. She believed she wanted to heal the trauma, her fear of channeling, because her mother had been a psychic and something had happened, and she'd stopped practicing. Something had happened that she'd never spoken about. And so she wanted to see whether she was meant to continue this lineage, because she felt she was. And and then there's a beam of light out of her heart and this huge, tall star being. And they kept on literally landing in some kind of energy craft in the middle of the apartment and like jumping out. And you could go, well, were they real? Were they something she manifested? Were you just losing your mind, Malcolm? And it's like, I don't know. I now believe they're there. But if somebody doesn't, then I'm not gonna bring them in. You know, I mean, that was just gonna, you know, because I wasn't ready. There's been a lot of things I haven't been ready for. And, you know, I'm here to help people, not drive them mad. It's kind of defeat the purpose, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're currently based in Wellington, New Zealand, but you work with clients internationally as well, don't you? And
yeah, I do.
Yeah, and if somebody wants to get hold of you, you know, they're interested in knowing about what, you know, more about what you do, want to have a bit of a chat or come for a session, whatever, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, you can just have a look at my website. It's just www.malcolmwilson.co.nz. And if you just jump on their website, there's like all the details of how you can get in contact with me, you know. And I always like to talk to the person for about half an hour before we do a session, just to see if we're a good fit, or so people can ask questions.
Yeah.
Some people can be a bit afraid of hypnotherapy because they kind of think that put them into a trance to control their mind, which I'm totally going to do. It's a really, really robust therapeutic thing.
No dancing chickens, right?
No dancing chickens. Yeah,
No.
not unless, I mean, unless you want to come to me. Nobody has come to me for that. You're welcome to. It would be a blast.
Yeah.
To do some.
And you've had some really amazing results, right? Just on a more serious note, you've had some really amazing results where people had wonderful kind of turnarounds and really felt empowered by the work that you've done, right?
Yes. Look, it works. The reason I'm so dedicated to this is because I found something where literally people can walk in with anxiety and walk out without it.
Yeah.
And walk out without it forever.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the more extreme end. Does it take one session? People will say, does it take one session? Does it take 10? And I'm always like, it actually takes as long as it takes. Usually between 2 and 4. But I literally have had people walk in and they've walked in with rage, and 4 sessions, like pure rage that controls their day, you know, like their lives, their marriages falling apart, their careers going down the hill. Yeah. People who come to me with, you know, the severe, what they think is an alcohol problem, and then you end up working and unplugging what's beneath it, and then they find that they just don't think about alcohol in the same way.
Yeah.
Or it's just really hard to, I mean, literally I had people walk in here and they have walked out and they can't find the anxiety, or they can't find the depression, they can't find the phobia. There's been a complete neural shift, like where the lion was saying one thing is now saying another thing. I've seen phenomenal things. I mean, so much of my spiritual belief literally comes from my clients, of what I've seen happen. I had a person breathe out in the shower. I operated at home, and then the energy of their breath out blew my head backwards, and all of the glass in my shower exploded. And at that time, they were cutting a cord, an energetic cord, with somebody who had a severe drinking problem, and that person was healed. Not just the person in the chair, but it rippled out. And I see a lot of that, like a lot of these incredible results. You know.
Yeah, really is amazing work, and like you say, that ripple effect as well can also be amazing as well. And really, really great stuff. Hey Malcolm, is there anything, before we finish up, is there anything else that you would like to add, or anything else you'd like to impart at this point?
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would really say is, if you do feel that you're opening up to this stuff, if you really feel that you are being compelled and guided and opening up to this, run with it. With it. There really is no one, you know, look for signposts and people. They'll come to you. But just run with it, you know, and because you're going to anyway.
Yeah.
And see where it takes you. If I had accepted it more, I think that nothing would have changed, but my own interpretation of the journey would have been probably lighter.
Yeah.
I think I would have gone, you know, like throw myself down the Hydra slide a bit. My son's presented with incredible gifts at the age of 4, and the biggest thing I'm trying to teach him, incredible gifts, you know, opens flowers with his mind. He's telepathic. In fact, we had to tell him that it's not the normal way that people communicate. That's why no one could hear him. He channels, deeply, deeply gifted. He was a shaman, turned up in a stream at the age of 5, blew smoke in his face, take him out of his body, put it back down, all of this stuff. And what I teach him to do is to have fun. It's just like go, I'm in, right? Like I'm letting go, I'm in. Yeah, this is just a normalized part of everyday life, because I genuinely believe that this is who we are. I actually believe that be spiritual is just normal. That we had the Industrial Revolution and somehow we forgot. We had this little blip in the radar, but that we were spiritual before and we were spiritual afterwards. And we had this blip in the radar, and it's a normal part of who we are. So my whole thing is, it's in you, it is you, run with it.
Yeah.
Run with it, have fun.
Perfect.
Do it and just play.
Thank you so much, Malcolm, for talking to us today. That's fabulous. Awesome. Take care.
You too. Thank you very much.
Bye.